Hello and welcome to this. It seems to be another impromptu stream, and the title today is Brexit. Oh gosh, Brexit, an early general election with a side of Gammon, please. And the guests I've got here today are Angels. Hello, Angels. How are you doing in Holland? It's looking very sunny there.
I'm not too bad. I'm just going to stick on my... See, it is sunny. I'm stuck on my camera. I've got my big shades on. And I even have a little G&T right here. And I will turn this around so you guys can see the outside of what I'm seeing right now, which is part of Arnhem. You can't really see much, but I will... like when I walk back to the flat later, I go past like the Grand Mountain near the Rhine and stuff, so I can show you a bit of Arnhem on the way back, because why not?
Cool. Sounds like you're in a supermarket. Are you in a supermarket?
Yeah, I'm rinsing the free Wi-Fi. What? Where else would I be?
Nice. Well, you've actually got Wi-Fi in a supermarket. That's quite...
No, you have Wi-Fi everywhere here. It's awesome.
Oh, wicked, wicked. Who else we got here? We've got James. Hi, James.
Hello. I am marvellous. How are you, Mr. Champion?
Yeah, not too bad. Good to have you on another stream. How is Manchester today?
Manchester is beautiful as always. It's currently raining, dull, everything you would expect with Manchester, but apart from that, it's good.
But
currently watching the cricket as a typical middle class centrist. Of course, I'm watching the cricket.
I was actually about to jump. I was actually also about to say, well, Manchester is not a Brexit shithole, which is good.
No, Manchester voted heavily Remain.
Yay!
The shithole.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Hold your horses. Hold your spurs, mate. We ain't got through the bloody introductions yet before you start. Getting on to Brexit. We also have Abby Cat. Hello, Abby Cat.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you all?
We're not too bad. Not too bad. I'm sweating a bit. It's a bit warm here at the moment. But
yeah, it's stormy here.
Okay, cool.
Is it? Cool. It's like super sunny here. By the way, I just wanted to ask Abby very fast. Have you been green fingers again and been like planting new stuff in the garden?
Yes, I have actually. I've just been to the nursery and bought another 4 plants.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
I want to come around for a barbecue in your garden at some point.
Yeah, I put an olive tree in the garden that I've had in a pot for a couple of years. So I'm hoping that it'll grow into
a proper
really
tree.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, aren't they quite they're quite difficult to grow, aren't they? Like notoriously difficult to grow. Often they're like they won't make it. At least that's what my mum was saying.
Yeah, I think as long as, well, in theory, if you've got it in a sheltered sort of spot and you don't try giving it the good food and soil and all that, they like to be a bit neglected. And I've got it in gravel, so I'm hoping.
Ooh. Fingers crossed. Green fingers crossed, that is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Dirty fingers, usually.
And of course, we have Cameron, my man, who's just handed in his dissertation from university. So he's feeling the weight being lifted of the university weight, but he's also at a loose end as to what the fuck he's going to do next. So, Cameron, how are you doing, son?
I'm doing fine. Just chilling, not doing much.
Now you need time to reflect on, your 3 years of hardcore studying. So, like I said, be sure to send me a digital copy of that dissertation once it's been graded. I'm very interested to have a read. How many words? What was the word count in the end?
10,000.
Wow. Okay. How many chapters? 3?
5.
5.
Oh.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Wow, so your chapters were quite short then.
No. Right. I'm including the introduction and conclusion because they're classed as chapters.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, that makes sense. 3 chapters, introduction, conclusion. Yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah. I got away with 4 almost. Well, maybe not, but that's another story. But that makes sense. But how do you feel now you've given in your dissertation?
I feel alright.
How confident you feeling?
Further, I'm sure I did fine. I know I could do things to improve, but I'm sure we're alright.
Cameron's like super smart. I bet he's going to wing it.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, Cameron, one weight might have been lifted off your shoulders, but another weight's right back on them because you and I are getting married soon.
Yeah.
That's another huge weight there.
Yeah. You better start earning quickly, Cameron.
No, it's all right because I'm earning.
Are you going
like
to keep him?
Yeah. He can just like be my
Toy
be
boy?
my stay at home toy boy bitch. Yeah, I'll just earn all the cash. No worries.
Yeah. That sounds like a good plan.
Well, that's Dream of Jess Phillips there. That's
Oh my god, yeah. What was that video, by the way? That I think James linked it earlier about just for it.
Oh, that was the Owen Jones interview, wasn't it?
Mm.
Owen Jones meets Jess Phillips. Yeah. It was quite old, to be honest. So, but anyway, so are we going to start with Brexit first?
Yeah.
So Theresa May came out recently. She said that it's going to take 7 years to complete Brexit.
Yeah.
Now, is this because her cabinet is so incompetent, or David Davis is so incompetent to negotiate what should have taken 2 years, and he's stretching it into 7 years, or is she just trying to, as a secret Remainer, stretch this out as long as she can, so it can be watered down and just basically pissed away with the wind? I'll leave that up to the panel to discuss.
It's all of the above.
All of the above. Yeah, I was going to say for once, I'm going to basically say it's probably like a mix of everything. And the thing is, I think that it was fairly obvious it was going to take a hell of a lot longer anyway. But it's obviously not helped by the fact that clearly David Davis is thoroughly incompetent, as are a lot of the cabinet that appear to not even. Like the most concerning thing is not even communicate amongst themselves. It's like they constantly contradict each other, and they just like it's just I don't know. This is why I'm saying, like, even though I'm not particularly pro-Corbyn, I cannot believe that this government in a million years would ever be voted in. Like, they are just unbelievable. They are literally an international joke.
But I think you've also forgotten a reason, and that's how much money might be flowing in from the EU to make things last a lot longer.
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not saying that the EU is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I've always stuck to that. But it's just it just seems almost inconceivable how bad that our government is when it comes to the at least so far, when it comes to the negotiations and stuff.
Well, and the fact that it doesn't make any difference to the vote, really. It's not,
I don't know why
people obviously aren't voting just on that. They must be voting because they don't want Corbyn in. That seems to be the whole thing.
And I actually agree with Abby on this. I think there's a majority of people in this country that won't vote Corbyn into power, but then there's also a lot of people who won't vote in a Conservative into power as well. So that's what's like holding up the Corbyn vote. I don't think it's down to his personality, for instance. I think it's more of an anti-Tory vote more than anything.
Yeah, I think
So
there's a lot of people just would not countenance even though they're like Labour, they'd call themselves Labour, they won't countenance Corbyn as the next PM. And therefore
Well,
they
yeah.
vote Tory as opposed
Cameron, give us your 2 cents because you're a Corbyn guy. Like, what do you reckon? You reckon it's literally all of those factors?
Well, in terms of vote Corbyn, it's not. I don't think you think you're a bit wrong on this one. I think people would vote for Corbyn if they're kind of inspired by his a vision for the future. Because look what this country is going, it's not very pleasant, and most Tories actually agree with that. I think what's holding them back is the vision for the future. They need to have a more specific plan and build on what I had in the manifesto. So my hunch is that it's best to go for the John Mills plan in terms of the economy, above what's in the manifesto. And I think if they can get it out impartially, because this media is not free at all. They've got every chance in the world to get a majority in the next election, especially if the next election is when after 2019.
They won't while they've got their own party fighting against Corbyn as well, which they are.
No, the Tories is the thing.
No, I mean
the media ignores it.
Party is fighting against Corbyn.
No,
you know, you've got Amuna and Starmer. They don't support him.
Oh yeah, yes, they don't. Right, but most people basically ignore them, or that creates FPB and centrists care about them, and that's a minority. Basically, the Conservative Party is just as divided, and it's not heard about as much in the media because they're like secret with the carpet. You don't hear it as much as in Labour. But look at Alice Subury and Mog, completely different. Two different factions. Subury's face to the Conservative Party is still on that Mog gets. No, their party was just many divisions who could build up easily. If they weren't in power, they'd be eternity apart like Labour did 3 years ago.
Yeah, and to be fair, Cam, you're right there because the Conservatives are like equally as split, if not arguably more, especially when it comes to obviously Europe. I'm sorry about the wind, by the way. There's not really much I can do about it if you can hear it, because I'm walking back. But yeah, they are arguably even more split, especially about Europe, and they have been for like decades. So I don't think it's like one party or another. And I think James is right that those are all factoring into, because there is no conceivable notion that a government like this would be anywhere near competent. Like they should be totally destroyed in the polling at this stage, just because like they're just awful. And then Sty just said, well, all of you guys say, well, it's got to do with Brexit, blah blah blah, but I don't think it does. Like we already said when me and James were like discussing it yesterday, and the average person doesn't know about Brexit. It's just us political anoraks that kind of do. The average person's just like, oh my god, like they do.
There's a sizable minority of people that do. You can say the majority, and those people are generally more Tory than marginals. I'm talking about places like Nuneaton. They need to win.
Right.
So that's not entirely true in this entirety.
But the thing is, though, Cam, if you actually look at things like polling and things like that, there's not really much change until an election comes around.
Yeah.
That is because.
That is
because
to midterm polls, though. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, they're all like all the polls that are quoted, right? Are always the usual suspects that haven't even learned anything since the last election. I mean, they're all way out, apart from one, you know. And and they haven't learned their lessons. They're still polling the same people for the same answers, giving the same results for the same bullshit reasons. So I mean, the fact, yes, I understand that they should like on all measures, on all circumstances, Labour should be way ahead. But you know, it's you know, politics has changed. You know, politics is changing. It's probably changing faster now than it ever has done before. You know, with the influx of technology and all sorts of other ways that people can get engaged, alternative media. You know, it is changing on almost a daily basis. They used to say that a week was a long time in politics. Now I say a day is a long time in politics, to be honest. So to quote polls, I think is bullshit, especially when you're quoting, you know, YouGov polls, which are still the go-to place for polling results. To be honest, in my eyes, I think it's bullshit. And yeah, insert Peter Hitchens quote meme here. But go for it. Go for it, Cal.
No, the key thing about the polls, right? They're owned by the Tories. Most of them are. Now, Pete Hitchens said, if I was a billionaire, I would set up a porn company and sell out figures to the broadcasters for low prices. That's what Pete Hitchens said. Now, it's not wrong, and that's what the case is happening here. The polls are owned by the same people who basically influence our politics behind the scenes. And that's the issue. The method to manipulate public opinion, not represent it. Now, you can see all about methodologies, but at the end of the day, you know, asking like 3,000 people is not going to represent everyone, is it? And people actually don't actually switch on until just before a general election, not locals, a general. Not really accurate at all.
Yeah, I agree, Cam.
Yeah, and one more thing to add, which is obviously very important, is that supposedly, according to polls, before May called the extremely unnecessary and catastrophic general,
the one that got her into power with big majority.
Yeah, and apparently when they were this supposed 24, 21 points, something insane ahead, right? Which to me smelt weird from the word go. I was like, well, that doesn't really add up from the general mood. When, of course, it totally backfired. I'm like, well, if Labour during a campaign can make up that much, I mean, I understand, and we, you know, obviously the biggest gift they could have been given was, of course, I'm sorry about this wind, by the way. I'm trying to stay out of it. So, the biggest
Angels,
gift.
you're fine, by the way. Your sound is wicked. Your voice is wicked. So keep going.
Okay, good, because it's quite breezy, so I just thought it was going into the.
It's fine. Fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. When they sort of said, oh, they're 21 points ahead and blah, blah, blah. Like, if during that campaign, Labour managed to make up the ground that they did, right? I think during another one, I think they'll be way ahead. I really do. I don't think, however, the Conservatives are going to make the same detrimental mistake again of, like, the worst campaign and manifesto in living history. So, we'll see. Not really sure.
Well, okay, so I suppose this is a great segue into the next topic, which is an early general election. So let's lay it out there. I mean, we've actually set up a sweepstake for those in the side chat room. Those of us within the bullet chat have set up a sweepstake, and we've put on a bet as to when we think the next general election will be. And I think it will be November this year. So it's enough time to do the campaigning, and it's also enough time to lay out any plans or their vision for Brexit. I think the next general election will be more of a Brexit general election than it was last time. I think The difference between the next general election and the last general election is that Theresa May wanted it to be concentrated on Brexit. Okay,
whereas it wasn't by the average voter.
It wasn't. No, it was concentrated on domestic issues, right? But I think as we edge closer to the deadline of Article 50, these ideas will become more and more into the forefront, and people will start worrying about it more because they'll be told to worry about it more, you know, by certain press or whatever. Yeah. And it will be a time for, during this general election period, and I know this is something that Cameron has it will be a time for Brexit, for Labour Party, to cement their post-Brexit vision of England and their role domestically. I think that's what they should prioritise on is obviously domestic issues and the post-Brexit issues domestically. And I think that's where the winning formula will be. And I agree with you on that, Cameron. But also our relationship with the rest of Europe and the world, secondary and tertiary in that order, respectively. I want to put this across to Cameron specifically, and then we'll go from there.
I won't necessarily disagree with that. We obviously need a proper economic vision, a strong one as well. And we need something we haven't seen since Keynes, and I'm convinced it's the idea from John Mills on that one. So about devaluation, investing like 50% of GDP manufacturing and things like that. In order. But the British interests come first. Interests of the working class come first, and not any foreign country. Now we can, and this is why when it comes to trade deals with the rest of the world, it's us who come first. If America does, let's say, not very present terms, we turn back to them and go protectionist. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, but are you sure that protectionism is the way forward in an age of globalization, whether you like it or not?
What has globalization benefited most of the people in the world?
Trump won an election. No. You know.
Yeah, he's won an election on it with the worst favourability in history, and that was going into office. God knows what it is now. I can't see how, just because you don't want something to have happened doesn't mean it hasn't. It's much like the working class Tory argument. If you want to be a millionaire, it doesn't mean you actually are. There's an element of depressive realism involved in everything, and the key to, well, in my view, obviously it's only my view, but the key to dealing with it is to handle what you've got in front of you. You look at the evidence first, and any ideology or indeed idealistic sort of tendencies later, not the other way around. Because
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And go on, Cameron.
Yeah, I agree with that last statement. And I'm looking at the situation, and I'm looking how we've been basically sold that by everyone. I mean, I think good resolution is a good thing. We're sitting here, right? Wearing clothes from China, subsidising their slave labour over there. Right?
Yeah. Oh God, I agree, and it's utterly wrong.
Illusion that globalization is sustainable or not, or the benefits people in the whole. It's not necessarily the truth of it.
My point is,
also benefits of it.
Yeah, I think you're diluting the point, Cameron. To be honest.
Yeah, but that is exactly what I do actually agree with. But because that has to be changed, does not influence how you forensically look at everything else. The reality. Yeah, but I don't know.
It wasn't about the reality. There's more debt than money in the world. Right? That's the reality.
There
we
is.
don't want taking time, but no, we want to take time on this. Anything about the economic system is on its last knees.
No, I agree. And you can change it, but you have to do it in a sensible fashion and not one that has been whipped up and built up on an idealistic platform which doesn't work and benefit the vast majority of people. That's my point.
Well, he's
So
ideas.
tell that to the Tories. Like honestly, we're
Well, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. This is ridiculous because we're arguing on something that we agree on. You know how hopeless I find this government.
I was just about to sing "Love is in the air."
Look, this is something that I agree with you guys on, but I want to do anything if there is going to be change, and I think inevitably there has to be, right? In my view, it has to be done in a reasonable fashion, which is basically going to screw over the vast majority of people the least. You know, you don't just go all out. Oh, fuck it! It isn't working. Let's just tear everything down, because that is a full-on chance to utter misery for a hell of a lot of people. And I feel like idealism clouds people's tribalism, and idealism cloud people's judgment so badly, especially now.
But saying that, Angels, you must understand the situation that we're in, and politics is very tribalist now.
I do understand that, but all I would ask is that you could set tribalism and idealism aside for pragmatism and sense.
Oh, of course, but we're not the masses, are we? It's just the five of us speaking on the panel.
No, I know, but we're all technically, I guess, like representative of certain people within.
We would like to be. That's a bit of wishful thinking, I think. You might be, like, because Councillor Angels, you might be, but
can I
Councillor Clark with your superpowers.
I'm quickly going to switch my camera on so that I can show you the main square. One of the main squares in Arnhem with like loads of cafes around and stuff. It's a really nice place. Hold on. Okay, you can see me here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just turn my camera around and I will give you a quick tour. So this is basically called the Korenmarkt, which is like
the Corbyn Markt.
Koren, Koren, Korenmarkt. It means like one of the marketplaces. And there's like a film theatre there, which does like quirky little old films. And these are all the bars around.
Nice.
And I am about to go in one of them, but I'm not sure which one yet. So just
the one with the better Wi-Fi, obviously.
I know, right? But yeah, like I said, I understand that. And then people say, well, you're caving in if you don't conform to ideals and blah blah blah. And I kind of agree, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to gamble away the reality of people's lives for a kind of vision, if that makes sense.
Or vision, right? Everything we do is a vision or an idea, a concept. We create in our minds. Everything, right? You can say that about every single thing in our society.
Yeah. I mean, go on.
That idea, that's we could talk about the alignment actually, and how people perceive that, the critics of it, and how people thought it was very well. The word YouTubers exists, but you can apply it to the alignment. Well,
I mean, the problem with when you look at analyzing the past and how people should act, it pays no respect or pays no ideals to how things will go in the future, and when it comes to economics or politics or especially things like geopolitics. I mean, you don't know what Russia's going to do next, you know what Syria's going to, or Iran's going to do next, or these some of them are quite crazy countries, or North Korea, for instance, or even Trump. One of our biggest allies. You still don't know what the fuck he's going to do next. So to try and base a strategy by analyzing the past, or trying to be pragmatic based on the past and what they say has worked before, so it must work again, is completely futile, I think.
But it's also not totally disregardable in the sense of,
oh sure,
I'm not against change at all. Well, actually, in fact, I think it's almost necessary at this point, right?
Sure.
But just by saying, oh, this isn't working, and obviously, as we all know, many aspects of our current system aren't. But to say, well, let's, in which case, cause maximum damage, tear it all down, and start afresh, right? Hallo, mag ik een pornstar martini, alsjeblieft? Ja, dankjewel. Sorry.
Hashtag Angels walked into a pub.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't think that means you have to tear it all down and cause max damage. You can still.
What's going to cause max damage? That's not really been done.
Yeah. The damage is already done. I mean, the damage has already been done by this.
You can make it
fucking
worse.
Bullshit. How can you make the austerity politics of the last 8 years worse?
Because what you can do is sink the economy to a point where ordinary working individuals and people on welfare are shafted even more than they already have been.
With the greatest respect, like, you said yourself that nobody gives a shit about the economy. Nobody gives a shit about Brexit. Nobody gives a shit about this. All they care about are on the door-to-door. Are their bins being collected? Are they? Okay, granted.
I didn't say that they don't.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I didn't say that they don't give a shit about the economy. Arguably, I would say that even without realising it, they give more of a shit about that than everything else.
But how can you say without realising it? So that you mean subconsciously?
Well, because people don't know, like, they'll take out their anger in various votes or in various sort of lashing outs, and it's not the root of the problem. My argument would be get to the root of the problem. It's prevention, not cure, so to speak.
Sure.
So,
of course,
so therefore, have a system that does work for everyone, or at least, the vast. I mean, nothing's perfect. This is also the dilemma we all find ourselves in, right? We can never run a perfect system. Somebody at some point is going to be shafted. Hashtag shafted. But we can be smart about it and try and minimize that as much as possible in a balanced fashion. You don't turn all anarchic and try and tear everything down and assume everything's going to be great, because
nobody said that. It's baby steps, isn't it? It's baby steps. I mean, we start off with the railways and make them affordable.
That's what I said. I'm not anti that either, right?
Right.
Okay, when half of Europe owns your railways, it becomes kind of difficult.
That's what I meant. Well, including companies here and the government.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cam, carry on.
I trying to suggest you're evolutionary socialist.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, one more time, Cameron.
I trying to suggest that you're a socialist, because I'm getting the impression that you're some sort of evolutionary socialist.
I am an evolutionary socialist.
No, I'm talking about angels.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, remember I used to be Labour, right? But I'm also pro-business, and I'm also there are different. I tend to view things like issue by issue, and I try at least to have. This part comes from my dad, I think. I try to have a sort of long view and like a broader view than being tribal, because I don't think it gets people anywhere. First of all, I think it's divisive. But secondly, I don't think it gets much done.
What do you define as being tribal?
Pinning your colours to one mast.
Right, that's worked.
For example.
Look at the trade union movement. That's worked. And look at the rich and the Tories. They tend to Well, gather around each other like a tribe.
But Cameron, I am
Feminist
pro-union
movement,
in the sense of I think that they have achieved a massive amount for workers' rights, and I wouldn't trade them for the entire world. No pun intended. But like, I also think that some people go almost rabid to certain causes, and in doing so, they then lose sight of like the bigger picture of how to make society better. And well,
Talk about that.
Okay,
This
well,
kid on Brexit.
all right. Let me just say, right. For example, I'm Labour through and through. I'd never vote anything else. So basically, people like that, there could be sort of the leader of Labour going and murdering somebody in the street and they'd still vote for them. No, that's wrong. Like nobody can actually say that. I just find tribalism to be damaging because it's not reflective of what's real.
Of course, Angels, you're right. I think tribalism can be dangerous, but there is no harm in centralizing around a central issue. For instance, Cameron talked about trade unions and collective bargaining. You could talk about feminism and the feminist vote.
The NHS is a massive one, isn't it?
Exactly
like,
right.
But I've been a long time advocate of a cross-party sort of strategy when it comes to the National Health Service, that it will get X amount of funding and these particular things will be done and implemented and it should not be used as a bloody political
football. Yeah.
And you know, it should be obviously propped up, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what colours people vote for in a national. It should be protected. The vast majority of people within the country actually support it, and therefore it should be sorted. End of. You know, we shouldn't keep going through these ridiculous.
I agree with
crises.
you to a certain extent. I just don't think your solution. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a better solution, right? So, but I will say is the problem with a cross-party solution. Say you've got the three main parties of England. Okay, so Labour, Conservative, and Lib Dems. Now, I would say that the Lib Dems and Labour would be able to outgun the Conservatives on their views, but the problem is without it being a political issue, then you're just not going to get anything done, because their aims are just too far removed because of ideology. Well, not ideology.
Yep.
What I would say is, this is the kind of respect to people like G Whistler, is the problem is they want to marketize it, you know. And the right just want to try and make money out of people's health, which on the left we see as immoral, you know.
Yeah, that's true, but it doesn't matter how they see it, even if it's a tenuous pact.
Well, no. Sorry, no. You don't understand this, right? And I'll say it now. It is immoral to gain profit from somebody's health. Especially,
no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Of course.
Okay.
But my point being is, even if they have some sort of tenuous cross-party pact, even the most callous of right-wingers that would like to privatise everything, including the health service, right? They would have to stick to their guns, because it would be a cross-party agreement and every government would do it. And I'll tell you the one reason why they will is because if they don't, that's a massive vote loser. So even the most callous of people are not going to risk not being in power because of it. So in my view, it's not perfect, but it's win-win for as far as people's health.
Well, you know, we basically agreed on this one. So
thank you, Val. Sorry, he just.
What was that?
He just.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, Val. It's like thank you in Dutch. He just gave me a porn star martini. I can't not thank him.
G. Whistler just made a great point. He says clearly destroying the NHS isn't a vote loser. The Tories are in power. The issue I have with that point is that the destruction of the NHS has gone by stealth out the back door. So
exactly.
It's not been kind of overt. It's been subverted. So it's kind of a dodgy thing. I mean, they've when you had the top-down reorganisation by David Cameron, which came under the coalition, by the way. So it wasn't just David Cameron. The top-down reorganisation. Cameron, you're good with recent history. When was the top-down reorganisation? I know it became under the...
No, I think it was actually even earlier. I don't know whether Cameron wants to back me up on this, but I believe that the original creeping privatisation of the NHS, as far as the outer stuff like the catering, etc.
The PFI stuff started under John Major, and it was continued under Blair. I agree with the PFI stuff, but the top-down reorganisation was under the coalition government.
Yes, I agree with that. But I went to a lecture by Dr. Louise Irvine, and she is one of the activists. She is, I think she's head, actually. You might be able to correct me on this, but I went to a lecture by her, and she's certainly involved in, if she's not head of, the NHA, so the National Health Action Party. Mm-hmm. And she gave a lecture in Godalming about creeping privatisation within the National Health Service. Now, I went to that with my dad, actually, and she was absolutely eye-opening and brilliant. And what she essentially said, like, whilst my grasp of history, as Cameron well knows, is bad, she basically said, look, the original outsourcing when it came to stuff like the catering and cleaning and stuff happened under Thatcher. She was absolutely against the clinical side being open for privatisation, and that in fact did begin to happen under Blair, which is very ironic for a Labour government to create the NHS and then allow that to actually happen.
Blair was a Tory. Let's not forget it was a basically a Tory. Right. Let's not forget that. Also,
exactly right.
I knew that fact she didn't want to do it. It's delusional. If fact she could, she would have done it. No rumours.
Even Thatcher said even Thatcher carried the NHS. She said that she didn't have the balls to do it. And this was the Iron Lady. But they found a way of breaking it up, and PFI was brought in under John Major, which was continued under Blair, who was basically a Tory. Well, like, that was the only way he could win an election, was to this is, there were a lot of stuff brought into government that was good under Blair, but they were half measures. He brought in a minimum wage, but it wasn't enough. The holiday pay and the 40-hour week, which was from Europe, it was good, but it wasn't enough. So you can look at these measures which are good, but they just weren't enough. They just weren't radical enough, really. And then the top-down reorganisation that nobody asked for, that David Cameron said that he wasn't going to do, that he ended up doing, is now is the kind of compartmentalisation of the NHS. So you've got your healthcare sectors, you've got your mental health sectors, and each one has been starved for funds, being primed, or which a lot of these things have been actually privatized. Even now, the ones that we don't see. So even the your ER and your intensive care units and your day-to-day nurses are still working for the NHS, but your external, your extensions, have been privatised.
Yeah, and that's what actually Dr. Louise Irvine was saying. She said it's less like a blatant, outright privatisation straight off. It's like a creeping privatisation that's very much like backdoor. Because the public are then not aware of it, and obviously it's propped up by like our right wing press. So it's difficult to kind of discuss and basically bring up as like a general thing, and it doesn't last in people's minds. But I feel like we're all hogging everything. I'd like to hear from like Abby and James and stuff about this.
Sure. I'm gonna stick myself on mute for a minute while I grab myself a bottle of wine. So.
To be fair, I've just rejoined, so I'm not sure what you was talking about. If someone's give me a brief overview.
Yeah, just we were just talking about how, because my view is that the National Health Service, as one example, there are others too, but it shouldn't be used as like a political football, and I feel like all parties should have some sort of coalition and agreement in order to fund it well and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, James. My view was before you put a comment in is my view was it would be pointless having a cross-party coalition because the two views of the Labour Party right now and the Conservative Party right now are too far apart to even have a coalition. I think it's even pointless even trying to. I do agree with Angels in the fact that I think that the fact that it is a political football is bullshit. But to even think that the Labour Party and the Conservative Party can reach a consensus, or even all three main English parties can reach consensus on how to fund or how to run the NHS is bullshit, really. And that was my view.
I understand that. The thing is, I always think government and governments in the past have always worked at the best when they come together with other parties and get a general consensus on things. With the NHS, it's such a broad topic and there's so many opinions on it. First of all, me personally, if I was in government, the NHS as a full audit, like where every penny is spent, because obviously we pay taxes on it, right? We should be knowing where it's going to and where we can save money on it, etc. And then if then it comes to the case of, right, we need to now put more money into the NHS, what I'm kind of for, but it can't just be, you can't just keep on chucking money at it because it's just putting a plaster over a big wound sort of thing. For me personally, I'll do a full audit on the NHS, and then I will then start to get rid of like chief execs who we have thousands of them, hundreds of them in the NHS. We don't need. It's point to me. Like I've always said with the NHS at the moment, there's too many chiefs and not many Indians. So I would try and work cross-party. I think working cross-party would help, but it wouldn't solve the issue. To solve the issue, you need to find out where all the money's going, because it just seems to be every time we chuck money at it, they want more and more and more. There's something.
Can I ask you a question?
There's something.
Which is something that bugs me. So there was a top-down reorganisation of the NHS by the coalition government. Do you really think that helped with the expenditure? I mean, you can talk about. I mean, everybody knows about the PFI bullshit, and everybody knows that we need to get back those contracts that were sent out under Major and Blair, right? Everybody knows that. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. But do you think that with regards to the top-down reorganisation that the coalition government brought in, do you think that would be a good start for with the auditing that you're talking about? Because apparently
Well, no,
there's so much more middle management than there were before. You know, pencil pushers rather than nurses and doctors. You know, that commanding, you know, 5-6 figure salaries.
That kind of goes with my statement of there's so many chiefs and not many Indians.
Yeah,
there's just
exactly
so many,
right.
There's just so many chief execs and too many like people in glass houses sort of stuff. There needs to be measures put in place where we get more doctors, get more nurses, get more carers, etc. This ain't just a thing that will happen overnight, and parties need to come together on this to find the best solution. Because the problem, if it's just the Tory party dealing with this, then it will be on a right wing basis, and if it's just the Labour Party, it will be more about renationalising the NHS. Where if we had a mixture of both, and mixture of both parties coming together to find the best solution that they can both agree on, then if it does go to a shit show, then they both can't blame each other. The problem is at the moment is when the Labour are in power with the NHS, the Tories seem to be, you're spending vast amounts of money on it, and then when the Tories are in power, it's you're spending little amounts of money on it.
Guys,
Well,
sorry.
if they both come together.
Can I just interrupt? No, just for 1 sec. There's no pets allowed in our block of flats. I've just walked in and there's this fucking massive cat sitting outside my door. Let me just tell you.
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad. I thought you were in the bathroom, in the pub.
No,
I was
God,
like, we're gonna listen to you wee now. I was like,
no, I already left. Right, wait. Look. Hi. It's okay. Oh, do you see him? He's just like running upstairs. I have no idea. It's okay. What the hell? He was just like waiting right outside my flat. It's so bizarre. Anyway, sorry. Carry on.
So where was it?
Random interlude.
No, so basically, if both parties can work together to find a solution, then both can't blame each other when it comes to the problem is for me is when it does come to an election, they both blame each other and no one seems to know the facts at the end of it. Well, if they both work together on that, then they can't blame each other.
There's one big issue with that.
I don't.
We have a party that, at heart, wants to privatise the NHS. That doesn't believe in the principles of having a publicly owned health service built for the British public from kill to grave for free.
Yeah, I would. Can I? Sorry, Angel. Let me just build on the point that Cameron just made. That also works closely with the nurses' unions and the doctors' union to work out exactly what they need for them to do their jobs right. I mean, that's I think at the core of the issue. And the only party really that worked closely with unions is the Labour Party. Do you agree with that, Cameron? And I think that's...
yes. I agree.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Angels, I'm finished. But, there's a but.
I was just going to say something regarding what Cameron said. You say that the Tories want to privatise the NHS, but the thing is, the NHS has lasted 70 years. They've not fully privatised it yet. So what's to say they're going to privatise it in the future? This is the problem with the Labour Party. They run these scare tactics of the Tories are going to fully privatise the NHS and we're going to have to...
everything. That's what they believe in. They believe in private enterprise above anything else. Public service above the people of this country.
No, go on, Cameron.
That's complete nonsense. Ever since the current NHS, they always oppose it. In the 50s, they opposed it. They attempted time and time again, actually, to privatise it.
Ouch.
Thatcher wanted to do it, but she knew she couldn't. But if she could, she would have done it.
Yeah.
But you see, I agree that when it goes too far, it's literally like selling your grandmother for a fiver, which is fucking ridiculous in my view. So I disagree with that, but that's my point. I feel like if there could be some form of agreement that would at least keep the NHS stable, that it's going to be in everyone's interest, because regardless what people's.
Look,
Yeah, but Cameron,
it shouldn't be cross party. The only people who should run the NHS, whose signs of the money goes into it, it's the doctors. It's the
Well, yeah,
no, we should have a council of doctors who actually run the NHS. Forget this.
Yeah,
and that's a council of doctors.
But yes, okay, fine. I agree with that, but it needs to be approved by all parties, so therefore no government can screw it. Basically, that's my entire point. Like, it should not be used as like a political tool, because ultimately it saves lives, doesn't it? So
okay, Angels. And what you're saying is it should be in the control of the unions.
It should be under the control of the staff that bloody well run it, and I don't think
in the control of the unions, because the staff that run it are members of unions, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not all, but yes.
By extension, then you're saying it should be under the control of the union, right?
I think
that, the party of the unions, the Labour Party, that's what it was founded on, and that's what they do. They are literally the political party of the unions, right?
Yes, and on top of that, what I would actually extend to is that all other governments, regardless of political colour, need to provide X amount of funding, X amount of audits, and X amount of efficiency sort of thing, regardless of what they actually believe. But largely, not just because of their colours, but also because of the fact that you stop the average person, right? And they go, like, they love the National Health Service. To them, it's like a game breaker, which also makes it a vote winner. And whilst it shouldn't be, it is. So even the Conservatives in their current form, who would, arguably like to privatise their grandmother, couldn't do it because they know it's suicide. So if there could be some sort of pact which would at least protect the health service, then good.
Do you think then, giving a selection of seats in the House of Parliament to the unions of the NHS, well then if you have a selection of seats within the House of Parliament, and then they have a representative that speaks for the NHS, just the NHS, and say this is what we're noticing.
Like an independent sort of.
Yes, party. Exactly right. It'd be like an independent party, but it'd be like the party of the NHS.
Of the NHS. Like, I don't think that would be a bad thing, because obviously they could make their own independent reviews of things. It would not be used, as we've already said, it's like a political football. I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. No, sure.
I think it's better than the idea of the cross-party thing, because I don't think I don't think the cross-party thing would work.
Well,
but if they're completely independent outside of politics, I think that would be a better idea. I mean, like an establishment as big as the NHS would have the power to form their own political movement, if you like, and it would be centered around just the NHS. So not only would be a political party, but it would be a pressure movement, if you like. But like you said, it must be subject to auditors,
scrutiny,
which any other.
That's my whole point.
Only as much as any other political party would be.
Yeah, and that's my whole point. I didn't say cross-party because I think it's ideal. In fact, I largely don't. But
we've just thought up a better idea just now between the two, this entire panel. So I think we're doing quite well, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to rejoin from my laptop. So give me 1 sec.
Ooh, she's got a laptop. Check her. Is it Apple?
I know, it's so posh.
Well, if you do that for healthcare, then you'd have to do the same for education, surely, right? And then you'd have to do the same for transport. if you're going to renationalize transport, because we've seen what a fucking shit show Chris Grayling's and what a big fucking shit sandwich he's had to eat this week. So that's been quite nice to see Chris Grayling do. So you'd have to do the same for education, transport, and whatever else. Communications maybe next. Maybe delivery services. With Deliveroo being completely fucked over. Maybe yeah. So I mean, if you start with the NHS service, where does it end? Where do you say that okay, this thing is essential for life and essential for a working economy, such as people's health is essential for a working economy. I mean, it's easy. It's easy economics. It's economics 101. Keep your populace healthy. They'll do more work. They'll be more productive, right? Oh, she's gone. Do we wait? Oh, she's back.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay, I literally paused my
it's okay.
my rant, right? Okay,
Carry on ranting,
where do you
everything.
draw the line? Okay,
yeah,
so where do you
fine.
draw the line? So everybody knows that healthcare is good.
Yeah.
It's, blah 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 blah. Education is also just as important to keep a productive society, right?
Oh, so you're saying where does it stop?
Where does it stop? So I mean, obviously, education would need that, that own space within House of Commons to spread their, and it should be under the same.
Oh, like teachers,
umbrella.
much like yourself or whatever.
Of course. And then what goes on? Communication, I suppose. Communication is very important in
hashtag Wi-Fi and fun, right? Am I right?
Yeah, 21st century Britain. Like, can you imagine applying for a job without internet or without a cell phone or mobile phone? Sorry.
Don't say cell phone. Sorry, you aren't.
I know.
American.
Sorry, it's Americanisms I got drilled into. So, or in Korean, handophone. But yeah, it's where do you draw the line? Obviously this line has to be made wider and wider and wider. The more society goes on,
Yeah, I'd say that there has to be a basic standard for education too. I think that has to be taxation based, and that's that. Should there be an option of private education? Ideally, not necessarily, but I'm not totally against it.
That's a whole other can of worms, Angel.
That's the whole can of worms. I know. But what I'm saying is there should be basic standards for what I would call essential sort of care, stroke services. When we're talking about utilities, right, that is something which I am still undecided on. I know it sounds like it should be a no-brainer that they should be in public ownership, but I don't know how competitive the prices end up being for the consumer if they are in the hands of private companies. Like, I honestly don't know it. Of course,
no. Take the profit out and then take the prices to the consumers, and that's simple.
Yeah, because your argument though was also that it would end up being a monopoly, basically. So there would be like one massive company that could charge whatever it wanted and whatever. But what if there's multiple companies? And what if they compete basically with... I'm not saying it's right, by the way, because I honestly don't know. But what if there are like multiple companies who compete for like the best price?
Really?
You said that about privatizing
really?
Yeah.
Is this really your argument? This is like bullshit capitalist arguments 101. Really?
No, I'm asking you guys. So you don't.
Was it a question? It wasn't a statement.
Yeah. So you don't think that market competition comes into it when it comes to okay.
Oh, sure. If you're selling coffee or fucking sandwiches, then.
But you're saying
whatever.
So you're saying that basically when it comes to let's say electricity, gas, water, all of that.
It's essential for
Yeah.
you to take part within the society, and people are earning a profit from that, then it is immoral in my eyes. Okay?
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm not necessarily with that.
No,
I'm just saying, I don't know what the ultimate outcome is. Yeah.
I'm just trying to explain, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is getting paid dividends, i.e. a rent seeker, a rentier, right, from someone just living their life, or just even like being the frugalest person they can be, trying to save as much money as they can, and some rentiers earning money from that, which is what we have from our transport system, or our energy system, or our communication system, right? Then I think that is immoral. I
wouldn't actually disagree, but what I'm saying is I don't genuinely know the outcome of market competition when it comes to these things. I do know, however, especially from spending time here, that many well, actually not just Dutch, but like many of the European governments stroke private companies have actually invested in buying up a lot of stuff that's been flogged. Like the Veolia water company is French, and like a few of the other things to do with trains are actually now owned by the Dutch, and then going back into the economy here and stuff. And that to me just doesn't make basic sense. Like, whilst I'm not an economist, surely that's bad for the UK one. Like, so even if I'm putting on my like totally incompetent hat, which I genuinely am when it comes to like the economy and stuff, it just doesn't fucking make sense. Like, why flog it off in the first place if you're going to see nothing back?
This issue about the entire economy, actually, because most of the companies or manufacturers or banks, businesses, they're foreign owned. We sold them off, and that's probably what, if the profits go out overseas as well, we're not actually no one's actually overly benefiting. That's the biggest issue in this country.
Yeah, it's not as bad
also,
here. I'll say sorry. Carry on.
Also, I'll say this: water. It should be the first priority to be nationalised. Right? You basically have regional monopolies surrounding you. It's got Yorkshire Water, and that's it. So there's no.
And then
water is life essential. There's no reason that should be in private hands or individuals. It should be democratically accountable to the public. Part of a government or local authority.
What I will ask is that how long can somebody live without water?
So why are we handing it to the private sector?
Yeah, isn't it something ridiculous like 48 hours, or is it longer?
It depends really. But on average, it's 48 hours.
Carry on, Abby. Sorry.
So I was just going to say you can manage days without food, but without water, it's only, like you said, just a short time.
If you've got a decent supply of water, you can
survive for a couple of weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah, or your organs stop functioning,
failing. Exactly.
Liquid.
Yep. Right, I will be back in 1 minute. I was not in the bathroom last time. I was observing a lovely massive cat right outside my door, which is bizarre. But I am going to go to the bathroom now. I don't want you to hear me pee, so I'll be right back.
I don't want to listen to you pee either. Anybody do that? Anyway, that's one for the Trump files. Anyway.
Chamchi, can I just say, some people are into that shit. Anyway, be right back.
Okay. Well, you do live in Holland, so. Anyway,
Donald Trump's into
where were we? Yeah, I was going to say that was one for the Trump files, wasn't it? Like the Russian thing. I wonder if those videos will ever be released. I'm sure, like in 50 years, we'll see the Trump files, the Russian Trump files, where you get pissed on by like. Anyway, that's another matter. We're talking about privatization and if privatization can work. This is completely outside of the spectrum, but Abby, have you been listening?
No, I was actually out watering the plants, so I've sort of been out. I've only been back in a few minutes.
Okay. James?
I'm always listening, and I was interested to hear Cameron's comments and Angel's comments, so I was just listening to their argument. But I'm here to discuss anything you want.
Well, what did you think? You haven't put in a 2 cents. That's all.
Well, like I said, when I mentioned the NHS, like I said, I think it needs a full audit, and I want to know personally where my money and tax is being spent on the NHS, and then if it does need more money, then we can supply it with it. But we shouldn't just keep on throwing money at it all the time because it's in a crisis. I'll use them words abbreviately, but I think
that's why. Sorry.
With things like the railways and the gas and the electric, if you actually go back and speak to people when British Rail was in charge, they'll tell you that the service was still as bad. Again, I think the main problem with the railways is that.
But there is the argument with the railways was that it was being primed for privatisation. You know, you defund, you get people's anger up, and
they ran down all the rolling stock too.
And then you prime it for privatisation. You break it up into little chunks, and then you sell it off to the highest bidder. Well, that's the idea. You sell it off to the highest bidder, therefore creating competition. But what actually happens is there's no bidding. There's blind bidding, and whoever's in charge in government at the time takes the bid from their mate that they've got shares in whatever company that they've got shares in. And that's what actually happens, and that's what's really fucked up. I mean, this whole idea of competition and capitalism is fucking bullshit. It's corrupt from fucking top to bottom, right? So the fact you can privatize something fairly, right, and that I mean, let's look at the railways, for instance. I mean, this is a fucking stupid. How for the consumer. For the consumer, how can there be competition on the railways? I can understand buses and taxis, fair enough, right? There can be 1 or 2 buses running on the same strip of road, but we're talking about track. We're talking about rail track. How can there be like more than one company? I mean, it's the whole idea of this fucking choice for the consumer, and there's competition for the consumer, which make it more convenient or more cheaper and what's the word I'm looking for? It's
competitive, basically.
Competitive and more efficient. I suppose efficient was the word I was looking for.
Well, not necessarily efficiency. It's just price, isn't it?
It's price. But what they actually did with regards to the railways is they broke it up into sections, right? Which is why you've got Northwest Railway, you've got Greater Southwest, you've got Southeast, you've got Southwest, you've got
and what was that?
Western, you've got Virgin, you've got all sorts of things. So if you're going from say Brighton to Manchester, you have to buy about 3 fucking tickets. I mean, how is that good for the consumer? Which is what they sold us in the 80s. Is what they sold us on.
Actually, Chamchi, you're totally right with that, because I very recently had to do that when Skylar was in the UK, and then we were going up to and because James was there too, but like when we went up to Manchester, like our tickets were with something like 3 different things, and then like I booked us into business or whatever, and it was just horrendous. It was a shithole. It cost me the world. And it was just awful. And I was just like, but then I don't know whether that's because I'm used to trains over here, which are infinitely better. Trains in they're like double-decker trains, and they're really clean and they're good. And obviously I'm used to Eurostar too, which is again like it's nice.
Yeah.
So but I thought it was awful. I didn't think it was efficient necessarily either. Like there was a lot of lateness and all of this, and the fact that people pay hundreds, like there are some people that choose to fly now within our country domestically because train fares are so bad. Now that is just awful. Like not only
for the planet,
environmental.
Like,
I was going to say, obviously there's the environmental argument, but that's fucking ridiculous. The moment your train fares start outstripping your plane fares is when you need to do evaluation. And the worst thing is, actually, whilst I wasn't against certain privatization of some train services, the issue has been, and this is a glaring one, is that the companies involved appear to not talk to each other, so therefore nothing actually ends up getting fixed, for example. So like you'll have certain, especially because obviously I know this, like traveling to Whitehall and stuff, you'll have like stuff on the track which is owned by one thing, and then the carriages of the trains that are going in owned by another, and none of them speak to each other, meaning there are delays, cancellations, and all of this, and you're basically paying through the nose for that privilege. It's fucking ridiculous. So,
totally. It's fucking like crazy. I mean,
that is a failure of the free market. I'm not against the free market, but in that particular case, and I know this more than anyone because you know where I've been like brought up in outer London, you rely on train services and
definitely.
And it's like that is a massive failure of it being flogged off to multiple companies who don't speak, who don't cooperate, and who aren't giving the consumers their best service. And end of story. So,
well, from a political point of view, when they defunded during the 80s and they broke it up into different sections, which is why you get the different companies, rather than creating competition within those areas, what they did was create separate little monopolies within those areas. So there is no competition. You either, like, if you want to travel by train within that area. So if I go from London to Wales, for instance, or Reading to Wales, like Swansea I travel to, then I have to go via Great Western. Western Railways. So out of Reading through Salisbury, change to Bristol, and then up to Swansea. Yeah, it's Great Western Railways. Yeah, I don't have a choice. Yeah, I might have a choice. I might get a Virgin, but that means changing tickets. But if I want one ticket, paying one price, so I don't have to fuck about, then what they did was create separate monopolies. Now, what they're doing with the take it back to the NHS is they're then creating separate monopolies when it comes to elderly healthcare or mental health care, or it's only yours if you can afford it. You can go from London to Manchester in 3 hours.
Yeah, but
if you can afford it, direct. Yeah. You buy a ticket on the day, it's 350 quid.
Look,
that's a
this
lot
is
of money.
I did that twice, right? I paid for 2 of those. From London to Manchester. On the way there, we had to change. I think it was like 3 times or something. But I booked us into so-called business class. I've never had such shit business class in my entire life. But then, having said that, I am used to Eurostar, like you said. So maybe I'm just a snob. I don't know. But it was just awful. And then on the way back, we only had to go from Manchester Airport, which obviously James is very familiar with, to Piccadilly, and then straight to St Pancras. So that was fine. Sorry, Euston, which is basically next door. Yeah. And that was fine, but that cost me an absolute fortune, like just for 2 returns. And I'm like, well, this is not sustainable. Like when I could get a flight for 50 quid, like what? And didn't we have something like in London specifically, we had something like 5 fare hikes within like a year. Like, now I live 5 stops from London Waterloo, right? 5 stops.
So
now a London terminals ticket, so therefore just return to Waterloo, no tube, just return to Waterloo, 5 stops,
20 quid.
Costs me, right, off peak, meaning after going there after 11 and coming back after 7, costs me 18 quid minimum.
Me.
Yeah, and if I go on peak, which I have to for work sometimes, it's like 20 odd quid.
Fucking hell, that's a lot of money.
Well, it's ridiculous.
And it's only a 20-minute train ride, mate.
Yeah, and it's like 31 minutes or whatever. You know what it is from like Egham / Staines to Waterloo. So it's bloody ridiculous, bloody unbelievable too, really.
Well, this is a situation that they'll have the NHS in if the Tories get their way, because what they're doing is they're breaking it up into separate sections. This is what they did in the 80s with the rail networks. You know, you break it up into bits, you defund each one singularly, and then people don't notice it because it's detached from the central. If it was central, then if it was across the board, so you do each one singularly, right? Hence the top-down reorganisation with the NHS. So soon it will be only healthcare if you can afford it, which it seems to be right now. It's only elderly care if you can afford it, which is.
Can I just say I'm getting shit now in the side chat again.
You get the bullet.
I am.
All right. Do you want to do a bit of like message thing?
Reading.
Like I said, I'm really bad at it anyway.
Okay. Adam has said I'm not going to do like all of them all the way up. I know that New Left has been chatting as well, but Adam says trains, bus, shit. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but yeah, I think they both are too. Cameron says only a snob complains about business class. You better get used to it, Cameron. Philip Mason says champagne socialism in accent angels. Would you actually call me a socialist then, Philip Mason?
Well, we were discussing it earlier. Like even Cam challenged you. Are you an evolutionary socialist? Maybe you are. We'll see.
I think
further.
James, are you still here?
I'm still here.
I don't know whether James. Okay. Me and James are like talking, and hi. Can you hear me?
I can.
Everybody can hear you.
Okay. Me and James were like saying, well, whilst we're both centrists, he thinks I'm to the left of him, as in like more of like a social democrat sort of thing, and he placed himself in between me and like my dad. But like all of us come under the umbrella of feeling a bit politically homeless and probably voting Lib Dem because we don't really feel we have choice. And I'd know that. So I'm not like anti-socialist ideas. To me, it's issue by issue massively. So
okay. So here's the question for you then: why vote for a party that has no chance of getting into power?
Because they could be kingmakers and rein in the two parties that I feel
but they'll never go into. They'll never go into coalition with the Labour Party then.
There's no evidence to actually say that.
Okay, granted. I agree with that argument, but I don't think they would go into coalition with a left wing, a proper.
But I can't. Okay, but I can't, in good conscience, vote for this horrendous government, and I also can't, in good conscience, vote for a Labour Party that I feel is headed up by thoroughly the wrong leader. It's not to say that I don't agree with some policies of his. In fact, a lot of the manifesto things are relatively mainstream, like here, for example.
You vote on the manifesto, not on the leader. This isn't X Factor.
Yeah, no. It's actually a mix of both. The reason why I bring up, the reason why I bring up leader is because whether we like it or not, it is very important to the UK electorate. And whilst it shouldn't be, it is. I try and look at things in like a matter of fact sort of way. And I feel like
See, I would like to disagree. Go on, finish your point, and then I'll disagree.
My point was that I think that he is a very divisive leader, and that the Labour Party has always been a broad church. And yes, people bang on about, oh my God, the Blairites have been in charge for blah, blah, blah. But I feel like there could be a happy medium, which there isn't at this stage. And I do think that matters to the broader electorate in order to win as well.
Yeah, okay. I would agree with that to a certain extent.
That and their gutless view on like Brexit, like just to me is no stomachable.
When you say the gutless view it's they can. Okay, so what I'll say, and I'll just put the Brexit thing to bed, is they're in opposition. We're not running up to a general election, so they can be whatever the fuck they want, right? So
yes, but that doesn't make it right, though, does it?
No, granted, but they can change it on a daily basis. That's the great thing about being in opposition, right?
Okay.
Moving on, right? The leader, right? Now, if you look at Jeremy Corbyn, his whole career was based on collective bargaining. It's more democracy, not less democracy. Okay, so if you want greater rights or more voting rights, like one of the things that they brought out recently was that they're really looking at abolishing house lords.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted that to pass. So, it becomes less about him and a more localized.
Okay, so that I'm not against, as you know, because I stood as an independent myself. So like, I feel like
I agree with you. He's not a leader, right? He is a facilitator. That is what he does, and that's. What
I feel like he's a good campaigner, and I can't like say he isn't. And I think he's given a voice to the left of Labour, which has been denied for a long time, and that's inescapable, and that's true, and it's also wrong. It's not something that I believe in.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, but I do think that he is basically more divisive than the Labour Party needs. I feel like a soft left candidate that could unite all of the broad church that it kind of is would be a lot better.
But
and
I'm sorry, mate, but they'd be running on failed politics, right?
So, not necessarily.
Ed Miliband or
let's say Clive. Like I always bang on about Clive, but it's true.
He's a bit young though, isn't he? He's a bit green.
He's quite sexy. He'd have my vote.
Oh, well, to be honest with you, yeah, I'd do him. I don't think easy, Tiger. To be honest, he's very charismatic, very, very charismatic, and
I actually think
I just like he's not radical enough for what the country needs. I mean, his view on Trident, for instance, is very questionable, and his foreign policy is a bit.
Well, he's ex-army, isn't he? So
yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Yeah.
But what I think, and I think it was James that brought it up yesterday, like the right-wing press would not be able to nail him in the way that they would nail like other candidates, because they love a bit of like ex-army, patriotic, all of this, and they couldn't really call him out for that. So I feel like, first of all, it would be easier for him in that regard. But I do think that Blairites would, well, so-called Blairites, I hate that fucking term, but, it gets used in bloody bullet chat every 5 seconds, much like hashtag FBPE, looking at you, Asim. But I feel
he's getting the bullet, Asim. She's putting down the gauntlet now, mate.
No, but I feel like he would be potentially more kind of unifying in that sense.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but if he wants to bring in Scotland, I think he would be a failure. I think he's too centrist. I think he would still need an exchequer, right? And the thing is, with Corbyn, is they are literally a government in waiting. Like, he has a front bench and they're ready to rock. Yeah. If you're going to say Clive Lewis front, who would be second? Who would be his chancellor? And I don't think there's one to take over that.
Yeah, like we had I just saw a comment in the side chat. They were giving me the bullet for being a metropolitan elite and all of this, which, yeah, all right, I'm going to own it, guys. I probably am. But, you know, we do need a token one on every one of our channels. Adam had said that the Lib Dems said that they wouldn't go into coalition with the Conservatives or Labour. If they did say that, I think that's a lie, because that also happened pre-coalition in 2010. So I don't really.
Do you see the link that sent?
Hmm?
Look in the group chat and look at the link.
Hold on. Have a look.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes, I just had a call off Mr. Michael Fielding this time, so that's why I had to hang up.
Okay, Mr. Michael Fielding.
Well, with regards to your point on Clive, Thomas Williams says that isn't true. Ralph Miliband was ex-army, and the Daily Mail smeared him as a communist and traitor.
Yeah, but they would have done with Ralph Miliband. I mean, I read his fucking book. Of course they would. But with Clive, he's...
It's any good, actually.
It's good. It's amazing. It is.
Really good, yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out. Okay.
I actually read some parts of it in my stream.
Okay, cool.
But do you think Screw Dover? That's an awesome name, by the way.
Isn't that shafted?
Is that hashtag shafted? I think
it's gotta be. It's gotta be shafted.
He says sexy politicians aren't a good reason to make a good leader. Well, do you know what?
This is what I'm saying.
At this point,
it's not fucking X Factor, mate.
Do you know what though? At this point, maybe it is a good reason, because we do much worse. Let's face it.
But look. Here's my point is, and I suppose this is what I'm going to draw the line on. If people say they won't vote for Corbyn just because of his performance on PMQs, just because of this dodgy anti-Semite thing, which there's still no fucking evidence for, then I think you need to look at the policies. If you're not willing to look at the policies and you're just willing to write off the party without looking there, then I think you really need to ask questions as to your political priorities.
It's not mine necessarily. It's more to do with what I think will win elections.
I suppose that's an interesting argument in that where you think you can gain power. Yeah, and I think that's where the Tories basically have it nailed. They have, because they've been in power for, or have been known to keep hold of power.
Yeah, and even if you count like the coalition as them being in power, because arguably it sort of was, right?
Yeah, it was.
They do have that kind of nailed it, but they are so horrendous now that, like I said, they should be being buried by any fucking opposition. Doesn't matter whether it's sort of Corbyn, like a Corbyn-led Labour government, or anything. But Phil Mason just nailed it, by the way. The establishment will never allow Corbyn or McDonnell near the levers of power. Ain't going to happen. Ditch them both if you want a chance of government. I actually agree. But I don't totally agree, Phil Mason. I think that by default they could win, but that's mainly because their greatest gift is the state of the Conservative Party right now.
I think the levers of powers are changing. Actually, I think that's where Philip Mason is wrong. I think he's willing on an old school levers of power. He's an analog lever of power, whereas we're pressing buttons of power. It's a button of power now, not a lever of power. I suppose is a better analogy.
Look, they will win. Actually, it's inevitable. If you can't see your head's in the clouds, basically. There's so much people kicking and screaming, and they do everything. They can. The saboteurs just say a new deal. Let's call it that. A new deal. Or be on the Labour and Corey McDonald. Now, what's been happening? It's not necessarily I couldn't say it Conservative. It's a kickback. What's been basically nothing else. You can say nothing has changed because
oh God,
economics that we're used to. Of course, the state Conservative Party helps, but I think something like this is inevitable for a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's what I sort of said. Okay. Yeah, but that's totally different as opposed to the voters that they need to win over in order to win elections. Like that's what I'm talking about.
He also increased the membership.
Well, actually, their vote share was higher, wasn't it? So in some ways, it was.
Yeah. Well, he's increased the. I mean, if we look at the last general election, we got 40% of the vote. And if we look at the general election in 2015, it was pitiful in comparison.
2015 actually wasn't that what a lot of people refer to as the failure of first past the post, because it was a
failure of centrist politics by Ed fucking Miliband.
But what they're saying is seats versus everything else, because the percentage vote under Cameron was what, 36% or something, and we end up with a quote unquote majority Conservative government when the vast majority of people either didn't vote for him or didn't vote. So it's almost like saying, well, look, 65% of the electorate's votes or non-votes don't even count, and now the rest of us are saddled with a majority government that we didn't vote for. So it's like that's my whole point. That's why I feel like reform is like necessary, because I just don't think it's reflective of what people actually think.
Cans of worms, don't you?
Little
Miss Clark, you like opening up these cans of worms, you know.
Oh, sorry.
you're just like,
yeah, I'm a bit of a fireball.
Let's all talk about proportional representation. Like,
all right, let's get back on topic. Sorry, but
all right. Okay, let me post the question to the panel. Right.
Okay.
Do you think that in any possibility, in any way, right? Whenever, I suppose the question is, whenever the next general election is, do you think Jeremy Corbyn could be the next Prime Minister? So I'm going to go as the way I see it on my panel. So let's go to James first. Yes or no?
Absolutely no chance.
No chance. Oh, okay. Fair enough.
No. The country will not vote for him into a government. The only way possibly if they get into like a coalition with the Scottish National Party and the Labour promise a referendum on independence, that's probably the only slightly chance. But they'll never win a majority under Corbyn. No chance.
I would disagree with that slightly. Yes, they will need to go in coalition with the Scottish Nationalist Party, but don't you think if they agree to an independence vote, don't you think that defeats the point? Because if they get a nationalist vote, then they would leave the UK, which means that they cease to have a majority. So I think your reasoning is actually logically out of whack.
I bet they might do it in the short
because
term.
I think if you look at like the
25th, I'm sorry.
If you look at it, it happened in the 2015 election. The Tories went on the case of if you vote for Labour, you get the SNP, right? Well, that's what will happen at the next election. If you vote Labour, you can have it
anyway. Like you don't.
Well, that's what happened, though. That's what happened. The majority of the people in this country said, no, Tar, I'm not having the Labour and SNP in government. I don't want Jimmy Cranky from Scotland telling me what I should do. So, no, I don't think Corbyn will get a majority government, and I don't think he'll get it with the SNP either, because I don't think the British or the English people will vote for it. Anyway, I've just got to make some tea, so I will be back in about 5 minutes, but I will be listening in.
All right, nice one. Cameron.
It's inevitable, actually. The question is, will the election will be this year, will be after Brexit, and that can make him a majority government, in my opinion. Look at the state of party. Just think about it. Is it sustainable? And if people think it's sustainable too, I think people will come to the choice. It's like what Ali said, right? In 95 election, he said that I know there's a lot of liberal voters out there, but I respect them. But the truth about it is, there can only be two governments: a Labour government with a progressive platform, or the Conservative government. And let's think about that for a minute. And that's what the British people are going to come to. People are going to vote Labour to take the government out. I think if Labour maintains a better position, most people wouldn't care that much about it. So that the fringes of FPB or say UKIPers will put a fuss up.
That's interesting. I mean, I've just had this thought, Cameron, that I want to share with you, is that post-World War, there was this sense that people kind of always needed to chip in, is that we were a society, whereas post Thatcher, we were kind of all individuals. Do you think post Brexit that we will become a society again? I think we would have to.
Whether
it will become as close as post Second World War, I'm not sure. But I think we would have to, post Brexit, would have to become a society again rather than a bunch of individuals. What do you think?
Look, hopefully we do. I think Brexit will change how we perceive our community in this country and our place in the country and the world, and that could very much lead to that. The idea we should actually rely on ourselves.
Interesting. Yeah. Angels, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Do I think? Sorry. The original question was: do I think it's conceivable that Jeremy Corbyn could be our next PM?
Yeah, if there's an early election.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And the reason why is not because of the so-called popularity of him nor Labour, but the reason being is that this government is just so terrible, and I feel like there would be, and I also think, by the way, and it's a bit like we did our little bets earlier, right? I think there's going to be election earlier than we think. And
you were much earlier than me, which I was very surprised at.
Yeah,
By the way,
I was like, what? Me and
called...
Chanty are agreeing on something. What the fuck?
I said November this year, and what did
I
you
said
say?
September, October. Yeah.
Wow.
Like September,
You have
October
to
time.
choose one.
I think even but look, here's my reasoning, right?
Yeah.
I think that there have been enough embarrassing defeats within both the Commons and the Lords at this point to, not even to mention the clusterfuck that is our cabinet and people like Boris like shoving his foot in his mouth daily. But
he's going to be in front of a select committee soon. You wait for his.
The abomination that is Theresa May is on her last strong and stable legs, and
weak and wobbly.
I just can't see it. Like I said, I don't view, like people say, oh, no, it's going to last because of Brexit and blah, blah. I disagree. I think it's at the point of no return now. I think that she is just so awful. She has lost the confidence not only of her own party, but the vast majority of probably her own voters, to be honest. So I think that it will inevitably end up in a leadership election, but I don't think it's going to end there. What I think is that because the new leader will be perceived, especially with such a poison chalice, as having no mandate, they will have no choice realistically, than to actually go back to the country. In that predicament, what I would put money on is a hung parliament with Labour as marginally the largest party. And I think the SNP will lose largely at the expense of Labour. I think Labour will gain at the expense of
hold that thought. I want to come back to you on that with regards to the Frankie Boyle thing, but carry on. I just want to make that point now before you carry on. Go on.
That's fine. I also think that the Liberal Democrats will gain at least 15 plus seats, largely at the expense of the Conservatives too, in pissed off soft Tory marginals who voted to remain. I think they'll probably gain in the southwest too, and probably a couple in Scotland. So that will put us straight back to square one. Obviously, following that, what would have to happen is either a Labour minority government propped up by the SNP, or but they'll probably only end up with still the one. They'll probably only end up with the one, but that's just our system, because even if their vote share is big, it's unlikely to kind of win elsewhere. So that would end up in a Labour government propped up by the SNP, but possibly by confidence and supply with the Lib Dems, who will also have red lines when it comes to Brexit, which means I think that would be the most likely outcome. I don't think that the Lib Dems would prop up a Conservative government from now on, given how decimated they were after the last one. So whilst none of those are ideal to me, that's how I can see it playing out.
Would you vote for Labour in those circumstances?
No.
Oh my God, you're terrible. Okay, Abby Cat, last one.
And she dropped out of the call? I think she's still in the side chat. I think she's still in the side chat, but she's not like in the call. But Abby, if you can like tell us what you think about it. I might add though, it doesn't matter how I vote. If it was a Conservative Labour marginal,
well, for a Democrat such as yourself, I mean, how do you feel that your vote won't essentially matter?
Well, I'm used to it not mattering. I mean, I live in Salad Fingers constituency. It's never mattered. So the only thing that I can do is vote to send a message, which is I don't like your fucking like flip-flopping on Brexit. Thanks, Labour. This current government,
like I said, they can do whatever they like. They're in opposition. They don't have to have a policy. I mean,
the government's awful.
Policy.
So I can afford to send a protest vote, because Labour will never have a hope in hell of getting in Philip Hammond's constituency. It's just not going to fucking happen. You know that.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So,
Granted.
you know, I actually have the luxury of doing that. However, if it was like a marginal seat, it might be a different story. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna go and fucking set up a thing on Cliff Richards.
In James's seat, for example, like, well, he's planning on voting Lib Dem anyway, as am I. But his seat is amongst the what is it, James? It's like the fourth or something. But like he's in basically a relatively marginal seat, and his neighbouring seat is also like a Tory Lib Dem marginal. So fourth, I think he just said.
Yeah. Can I just?
Oh, yeah, Abby, you're here.
We were just literally asking. We're literally buying time until you came back.
So I was pressing the thing, and I was pressing the wrong thing, which was
okay.
What was there?
Okay. To bring it back to the original question.
Yeah, I think you could have I think you might have more of a swing to independent and Green candidates, because people just won't want to vote for either party. But that will only be a small majority will change to voting for them. I think other than that, people will vote exactly as they have done in the last two elections, because I can't see them changing. They're still voting very much, I'm Labour, I'm Tory. And that's, they're not really looking at what's happening.
Okay. I mean, there is an interesting argument in that there's a lot of people within that happened. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. There's a lot of people, especially youngsters, that wanted the vote for 16, that were fighting for the vote for 16, that have now become this year, that will become 18 and will be viable to vote. And they said it was a youth storm during the 2017 election.
Yeah.
I think, even though it actually wasn't, if you look at the figures, it actually
they weren't that.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't that much of an impact. It was just, there was the youngsters being bribed by, it was all fucking right-wing press fucking propaganda. But there was a voice that came out through that bullshit, and that people at the age of 16 wanted to have a vote, and they felt that voice wasn't heard. You can join the army, you can die for your country, you can have children, get married, but you can't vote. And I think that these 16, 17-year-olds will be coming of age if there is a general election this year, and I think that will become a factor. So there's an additional idea. What I actually want to do is I want to finish the stream sometime soon, because we've been at it for like 2 hours. If someone wants to take over this stream, then
there's nothing wrong with a good. There's nothing wrong with a good long session, Chamchi.
Oh yeah, totally. But what I want to do is I want to turn it over to someone else. But before we do, because I think we've answered all the questions except for one, I would like a side order of Gammon, please.
Oh, yes. Let's quickly discuss Gammon, especially since we have Philip Mason in the side chat, who actually changed his name on Twitter to Roast Gammon, which I thought was brilliant.
Go on, Angels. You take the lead. Ask the question.
Alrighty, I will ask the question. What are people's views on this whole? I think it's a bit of a silly sort of meme, really. But what do people think about this whole thing of Gammon apparently meaning or trying to mean a man over the age of 50 odd who's like white and slightly ruddy faced and like wants, is a little bit trigger happy when it comes to the nuclear button, has a bit of a secret like of Nigel Farage, but is likely to vote Tory and possibly read the Mail or that kind of thing, and is like obviously a massive Brexiter and stuff. What are your views on this? Now, I know exactly the type of question time audience sort of person that the thing is trying to relate to. Like, I can laugh about it because I can sort of see that type of person, right? Much like you guys can always laugh at me being like a liberal, whatever. And lots of people are up in arms at the moment because they are viewing it as being racist. Now, in some ways, I suppose it is racist because it goes to a certain, it goes to white people, it goes to ruddy-faced individuals over a certain age and that kind of thing. Like, it does pick them out. But I feel like it's just more of a jokey thing. I don't really feel like it's that bad. What are your thoughts?
Pick someone.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear from Philip Mason first. Do you find it offensive?
Philip Mason is not here in the chat.
No, but he's in our side chat. He's in our side chat.
Yeah, I know, but pick a panelist, mate.
Oh, okay. So let's go with you first then, Chamchi.
Now, if you look at where it's actually come from, I suppose this is where my confusion comes from with the the mural with the hashtag anti-Semite mural. Yeah, this is one of the things I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
I don't see it as a race thing. I see it as a class thing, right? And if you look at that mural, right? See, they're all fucking Gammon, right? There are 5 people sat at that fucking table,
and they're all Gammon.
They're all fucking Gammon, like typical Gammon would be like fucking Gove, Johnson, fucking even Salad Fingers, man. He's a bit Gammon. It's just there's no fat, so the meat's gonna be a bit tough because there's no fat in it.
You, man.
Like it's just like the tough fucking wah, 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 wah. Yeah, how dare they call us Gammon?
Do you think?
Even though we've enslaved them for hundreds of years, how dare they call us Gammon?
Yeah,
racist.
No, but Chancey, you're like I think that Gammon is more like the sort of middle, sort of working class white male who's like pro Brexit and reads the, Daily Mail and it's like a bit ruddy faced and like desperate to nuke people and stuff. I think
hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. No. I would say I disagree. I think Gammon is the red faced kind of high end Scotch induced big nose kind of banker. I've stayed up all night counting all my money. That's why I'm so wrecked today.
I thought it was like the opposite. I thought it was like the angry working class, like Weatherspoons going, the sort of Brexit white male over 55. I thought that was the whole point of the term.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I might also be wrong. Can anyone put me right? Because I have no idea. Cameron,
but
you know about this shit.
What I will say is, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. I think it's about time.
Like, people have called me like a dumb blonde and like a liberal middle class elite and a snob and stuff. It's not like I then claim like, oh my god, this, Well, some people.
It's not like you claim victimhood. You just own it, right?
Well, because it's like it's just a bit of fun at the end of the day. There's an ounce of truth in it, but it's still kind of a bit of fun. It's not like people can go, oh my god, it's like horrendously racist and blah blah blah. At least that's what I think. What do you guys think in the side chat?
Well, Philip Mason says Corbyn is a left-leaning gammon with applesauce. I preferred herb hollandaise. I would say he's
Herb Hollandaise. Yeah, he is a bit of a snob, isn't he? You're a snob like me, Philip Mason. Yeah, I did call myself a snob, Shafted. I am a bit of one. Come on, like, you know, I appreciate my Waitrose and stuff.
Well, just fucking own it, mate, innit? And you are owning it. So like, there's like once you own it, then it's fine. It's like the Tory party. Tory were never always called Tories. Apparently, it was a name that the left gave to them as you're a fucking Tory. Fuck off, you. But then they owned it, and now they're known as Tories. So
do you know what one of the nicest compliments I was ever paid was? Right, it was by Asim, and he said to me, "Angels is the nicest out of touch liberal I've ever met."
Yeah, but to be fair, Asim is quite charming, though, isn't he? He's quite charming. You know?
Do you think me and Abby get on really well? Despite us massively disagreeing.
I'd date Asim. You know, I think. You know, I'd like him to charm me, he'd dress me up in a thing.
He is very charming, isn't he? People seem to sort of like it. Very sort of agreeable.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
he's lovely.
Disagreeable
lovely.
too. But yeah, he is.
No, he's lovely. He's lovely. Yeah. Even when you disagree with him, you can't disagree with him because he's too lovely.
Like, yeah, he is.
I just want to stroke your hair.
You can be my slave any day, Asim.
Oh, don't say that. That's like I'm ashamed of you. Now I should give you shit like you gave me shit over the fucking feminist thing.
No, I didn't actually technically give you shit.
No, I should give you shit. I should give you loads of shit. Whether you didn't
Don't give me more bullets.
You're better than that.
You were better than that too.
You're better than that. It's me giving you.
I was kidding. It was actually a reference to Manchester. Well, no, it was actually a reference to Manchester when I had the lads going and grabbing me spritzers every 5 seconds because I couldn't be asked to move, and I was just like swilling down tons of wine. So they were like slaves.
Here's one from Asim. He says, "I'm not going to be a slave to a yellow Tory."
Oh,
so that's a big middle finger to you.
It most certainly is.
Annabelle.
Oh, that hurts, man.
All right. Anyway, so Angels, are you going to take over this stream then, or what?
I will probably do my own. So if all of you guys want to join, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to give it a different topic, actually. I've had to look up, obviously, on like UK politics news, which I have been a little bit like lacking in the past few days because I've been quite busy with work and stuff. So I will give it a different topic, but you're all more than welcome to join. In fact, I'd love you to. So I will post it in Bullet Chat the moment I set it up, which will be not in Angel's time, shortly.
I'm just going to eat my tea and have a glass of Vino dell'Italia. So
oh my God, don't make me jealous.
Mine comes out of a screw top, you know.
I said, don't make me jealous, Abby.
Mine's Aldi, but it's Castadore, so who knows what that is, but it's got a nice orange top.
Legend.
But actually, Aldi's really like, from all of the good food mags and stuff, Aldi is like basically award-winning wines. So yeah, it's
my
really
daughter's
good.
partner was really into wines, and he raved about them. He'd sort of, every time they came, he'd fill up his boot with the really sort of good bargain.
Yeah, oh God, absolutely. And actually, Aldi and Lidl are both German supermarkets, I believe, and they've got them like around here as well, obviously in Holland.
Yeah, they are. I think they're either brothers or cousins, the people that own.
Are they linked?
Yeah, and they sort of opened in opposition to each. I think they might have both run one of them and then had a bit of a falling out.
Oh.
And
really?
the other
Can I
one
end
went
this stream?
over to Lidl.
Yes, you can. Sorry. I mean, Abby, you
Sorry.
can rejoin me on the other stream.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Stay
Yeah.
online because I want to close up. But thank you guys in the sound stream side chat. Thank you everybody for giving your input. I think this was a really good stream, and we got some awesome shit actually sorted. And I would like everybody to sort out to sign off. Thank you, Councillor Clark.
You're very welcome. Not councillor yet, but soon to be. Who knows?
I'm sure you have a superpower. Abby Cat.
Thank you.
That was very short and sweet. Cameron.
Sorry, what did you want me to say?
Oh, anything? No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
All right.
Cameron.
I aim to please.
Yeah. It's been great being on Facts Empty. We covered some interesting topics.
We
Today.
did. Yeah, it was wicked. And James. Too busy landing planes, obviously. All right. Thank you very much, guys, in the side chat. Thank you. And we'll catch you on the next one. If I don't see you before, I'll see you on Angel Stream or maybe Sunday. Who knows?
See you in a bit, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're out.